It's full time.
Hello, Shane Crawford here and welcome to Full Time, brought to you by AIA Vitality. Now, I'm on my own tonight. The normal host of the show has decided to go interstate. He's done a runner and he's followed all the interstate sides and the Melbourne sides off to a beautiful part of the world. Where are you, Ayrton? And what's going on?
Good evening, Crawford. You're having a little chuckle there at my expense already. I'm just lurking in the bushes at the moment, just outside the Mercure Hotel on the Gold Coast, where I guess all of these Victorian teams are heading in the next few days. Carlton just arrived a few moments ago. Of course, the Blues will spend the next 5 weeks here as one of 6 Victorian teams in Queensland, 5 here on the Gold Coast, alongside the likes of Essendon and Richmond today. Some really emotional scenes, I guess, we've seen today. We're at the airport in Melbourne and at footy clubs when they were jumping on the bus, the likes of Collingwood and Hawthorn, the first of those clubs to depart earlier today. Some emotional scenes, players with their young families. Of course, these guys not going to see their families for upwards of a month. Some are taking their families, but most of them at this stage keeping their numbers to a minimum to keep down those costs in terms of the hubs. Now, on here on the Gold Coast, it is 6 teams, as I mentioned. 3 are actually staying here at the Mercure. It's Carlton, along with the Western Bulldogs and North Melbourne. They'll arrive tomorrow. The Roos are actually sharing a plane with Essendon. Essendon and Richmond staying further out in Southport. The Bombers and Tigers are then expected to head in to Royal Pines, where West Coast and Fremantle are staying, so they'll play their final match this weekend before heading back to Perth. So certainly plenty happening here on the Gold Coast, and it's going to come basically the main hub for the AFL competition over the next few weeks. And I understand there's some players who've decided not to go. Yeah, some really tough calls made at Richmond. It was flagged during the week by the Tigers, some young families there. Basher Woolley actually welcomed his 3rd child in the past few days, while Shane Edwards and his partner are expecting in the next couple of days. So they've decided to stay home for the moment. And the problem for them is, even after all of Richmond's injuries, if they do decide to come up in a week's time, they would need to quarantine separately to the remainder of the group, because, of course, the players here have to spend all of their time inside their resort. They can only leave for training or for matches. But, Crawford, I haven't seen much of the footy today. You've been watching it all. Tell me, what's happened?
Well, there's a lot going on, but can I just say it's a massive advantage for the Gold Coast Suns and also the Brisbane Lions, not because everyone's up there, but because it's 6 degrees in Melbourne, it's 20 degrees up there. They're going to get a sample and experience a month of their life in beautiful Queensland and taking in how wonderful it can be. And there's every chance at the end of this year, there's a lot that are going to put their hand up and say, hey, I think this is for us. Let's go up there and play footy and have a good time. So I think it's a massive advantage for those 2 teams, which is great for football, obviously, in Queensland. But have a look at the round so far. Let's launch straight into it. And here are the winners. St Kilda were awesome. The Bombers, great win against Collingwood. The West Coast Eagles, they're back on track after defeating the Swans. Geelong, well done in a milestone match, although the Gold Coast Suns put up a really good performance. The Western Bulldogs were very, very awesome the way that they went about it against North Melbourne, a disappointing North Melbourne. The Brisbane Lions, how good. They're now the favourites to win the premiership, and they were up and about. Their midfielders kicking plenty of goals as well. Adelaide, unfortunately, the wooden spoon is heading to South Australia. You would think Fremantle having their first win by 20 points without Nathan Fyfe. And also Richmond are back on track, 27 points over the mighty D's, who unfortunately haven't got their season going yet and have only had 1 win. And I think we're going to have a bit of a look at that game, because Richmond had to get themselves back on track. They had to find a way to win. I thought last week against St Kilda, they tried hard, but they were still missing a few key ingredients to what Richmond have brought over the last few years. But they got rolling. The D's tried hard. I'll give them A for effort from a trying point of view, but at the moment, I think the Tigers had the win they needed to, but there's a few injuries and there's a few concerns from that point of view.
Well, Basher had a baby boy, Mohammed, so we send our congratulations. You know, Shane Edwards' partner's pregnant and probably pretty close to giving birth now, so yeah, we've got some situations we have to work through.
Well, that was, of course, Damien Hardwick speaking on Basher Woolley and Shane Edwards not heading up here to the Gold Coast. 2 of 5 premiership stars the Tigers are likely to be without next week. Crawford, of course, some big name injuries today. Talk us through what happened to the likes of Toby Nankervis and Trent Cotchin.
Yeah, well, a couple of key injuries. You certainly need those players, not only finding a bit of form, but staying in the team. They did it last year where they had a lot of senior players out of the side and they were able to win the flag. But this is going to be a big ask. They're going to have to really rely on some of their depth to come through and stand up over the next few weeks. And it's going to put a lot of pressure, and especially Basher Woolley and also Shane Edwards not going up. They're very good users of the football, create a lot of run. So it'll be interesting times from the Tiger point of view.
We're certainly keeping a close eye on those over the next few days. I think it was hamstring for Cochin, ankle for Dion Prestia, who certainly looked upset post-game, and Nankervis also with a concern that could keep him out of next week. So one's to watch and one's I'll be keeping a close eye on over the next few days. But the Demons, Crawford, by my reckoning, I reckon since that preliminary final that they made, maybe 6 wins and about 20-plus losses. What is going on with Melbourne? Because I know their fans are just tearing their hair out.
And fair enough, 1 win so far in season 2020, and that was by 1 point over the Blues. And it's not good enough because they can't kick goals. Have a look at the scores there. These are the points they've scored throughout the season. 51-54, which was a win. 44 and 52. That is not good enough to win AFL games. So what do? All I know is that Simon Goodwin, the pressure is starting to really mount because you've got to get the wins on the board, regardless of who you're playing. I know they're trying hard, but it's got to be more than that. Last year was a disaster year for the D's after having a real successful year the season before. And this year there's a lot of promise, a lot of new blood come into the team. You've got a star like Max Gawn in the middle who really is a superstar. And I just don't understand how they're not able to get the ball forward and really hit the scoreboard. I think they might have to start throwing the magnets around, as Mickey McGuan, the great Collingwood midfielder, would say. Throw the magnets around, try a few things different. Stephen May, for me, is possibly one you could push into the forward line and just ask him to bash and crash. And with the midfield, I just think they've got to play on. All guns blazing, just get the footy, start rolling, and it doesn't matter how it gets in there, as long as there's a contest, play a smaller forward line. They've just got to find a way to score some goals. They're coming up against the Gold Coast Suns. If they lose that, season's done and dusted for the D's. So there's a lot of pressure mounting. I'm sure behind the scenes also the board will be meeting thinking, OK, have we got the right coach? It doesn't seem to be going the way we want it to. Effort's OK, but that's not acceptable. The D's need to win some games, and we're expecting them to win some games, especially with the talent they've got out on the field.
I just want to back over that, Crawford. Only a couple of games into the season. So you reckon Simon Goodwin, with another defeat, there might be discussions at board level. What decision are you making in regards to Simon Goodwin at the moment?
Well, this season was all about a bit of hope, but they've only had 1 win, and it's by 1 point. And that's not good enough. It's not good enough for anyone at the moment. We've got Adelaide sitting on the bottom of the ladder, and then we've got the D's who are just above them. So it's not good enough. We need more. We need to kick goals. And I know they've loaded up their back line. They've got some very experienced players down there. Who cares about the back line? Get the ball into the forward line, get it through the big sticks, get the scores, kick a score that is going to get you in the match every week. And unfortunately at the moment it just doesn't seem to be the case. Max Gawn, you could argue, is the best ruckman in the league with Brodie Grundy, and he gives them first use. I just do not understand why they are not hitting the scoreboard and getting more bang for buck. It's just not happening. They've got very good on ballers. There's obviously a huge breakdown connection through the midfield into the forward line, and yes, they're a real work in progress. And you watch, mark my word, if they lose to the Gold Coast Suns next week, hey, the jungle drums will start beating, and Simon Goodwin is going to be under the pump. I'll spit that out. Simon Goodwin's under the pump.
Well, let's hope he's not watching full-time tonight, Crawford, I reckon, after that. But I'd love to have you talking tough like that. Anyway, we've got to move on. Let's have a look now at Fremantle and Adelaide. It was the battle of the cellar dwellers. The two clubs had really been struggling so far this year, and the match almost, I guess, played to their positions on the ladder, didn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't a great spectacle, a lot of mistakes, and the problem Adelaide have is they can't use the footy when they get it, making a lot of schoolboy errors. I thought I was watching my son's under-13s match at times, but good to see Fremantle have their very first win, for the season under new coach. No Nathan Fyfe, so that was even better for them. And their real key players stood up at crucial moments, especially, you know, the start of the last quarter. Mundy goes into the middle, gets the footy out. But the Adelaide Crows, I know the coach was pretty positive after the game. Yes, they got a bit closer than they have over the last few weeks, but yeah, they're a real work in progress themselves.
It stings because you want to win it. You know, you think you look at the numbers and the screens lighting up green. You've got KPIs you're after, and we're hitting all of them, other than putting the ball between the big sticks. So it stings like that. But there's a lot of positive to come out of it, and we'll find that, and we'll get better with the stuff we've got to work on. I mean, it was such a howler from a disposal point of view that, you know, we'll move that to the side and we'll talk through some of the other detail today, but then we will go and train. That's back home now. We get back to Adelaide and we go back there and work on our skill executions, because if we execute like that, it doesn't matter how you play in the fight. You're going to struggle to win games.
Well, Crawford, the other big game, of course, is underway at the moment. Your boys having a tough time of it again against the Giants at three-quarter time there.
Yeah, the Giants are back in form. Last week, very good win against the Pies. It was real workmanlike, but they've obviously been able to take all that confidence in against the Hawks. I thought early in the game the Hawks were structuring up quite well, but the Giants still kicked 4 goals and obviously a real clear lead and heading towards a very good win. So maybe the real deal Giants, they're back. Maybe they're back to the groove. They've got all their key players and playmakers floating around, so that certainly helps. And do we have, someone up there with Brisbane that can really match them? Is it the Giants? Are we going to see the very best of them? So at the moment, it's good to see. Not good for my mob, the Hawks, but a good football club. They'll bounce back. Don't you worry about that.
Well, Croft, we all know you're a student of the game. We know you've probably watched every minute of every game so far this round. What are your 4 points from the round?
Well, Collingwood are under enormous pressure at the moment. Jeremy Howe going out for the season. Steele side bottom. De Goey, there's a lot of pressure. They haven't won recently, so a lot of pressure mounting on the mighty Pies. I think it's anyone's flag. If you can handle the hub, get your head around it, that you just got to head down, bum up, work hard, work together. I think it's anyone's flag. I love the classy Cats. I loved, the great Gary Ablett and also Joel Selwood. Milestone matches, 2 superstars. Great win by the Cats. And Clarko's tackling. He started complaining. He's changed the rule. The umpires are gone mad. They're blowing the whistle as soon as someone wraps their arms around someone else, and all of a sudden you get a free kick. What's going on? Tackling's gone mad.
I did want to ask you about that, Crawford, and this is your club's fault, actually. Well, no, I don't blame Clarko, because I reckon what Clarko said was on the money. That the umpiring department did need to clamp down on incorrect disposal, but I think they have, I guess, tightened the wrong interpretation. This is my own opinion here. What does that mean anyway? But I'm going to ask you about it. At the moment, blokes are getting pinged when they've got 2 tacklers on them and they've almost got no chance to get rid of the footy, but the umpire's saying, well, you had no prior opportunity, but you didn't make an attempt. This guy's still like Dustin Martin. He laid an egg today, absolutely dropped the footy. The umpire said play on because he made an attempt to get rid of the footy. I think that they have gone after the wrong part of the rule and they've clamped down on the wrong part of the rule. What do you reckon?
Hey, we want Dustin Martin having the football, because football's better when Dustin Martin's running around doing things that he does out on the football field. I think they're trigger happy at the moment. I think the next few weeks it'll settle down. That's why I was saying a few weeks ago, just let the season unfold a bit. And I think, definitely there's an overcorrection, but I reckon the next few weeks they'll start nailing those decisions. But it's good to see, finally, players under pressure wanting to flick the ball out, because over the last few years they've been trained to take the tackle, just roll with it, set up for a ball up, and that's what's been happening. Whereas over the last week, it's been good to see the ball being knocked out, knocked forward, trying to knock to advantage, and it's getting the game flowing again. So just give it another couple of weeks and I'm sure it'll be all okay. My Sunday roast is Ayrton Woolley heading to Queensland. Why not me? I want to go to Queensland and get away from my family. No, my Sunday roast is North Melbourne. Ben Cunnington, he shouldn't have played on the weekend. Reece Shaw, the coach, he put his hand up and he said, I selected him. They put him through a fitness test. The poor guy couldn't bend over and pick up the ball. He's an incredible player. I love him. Ben Cunnington, superstar, but he just didn't look well. They got it wrong and they played accordingly. So North Melbourne, pick fit players, okay? It's too hard to play the game when you're not that fit and you can't contribute like you can. And we expect Ben Cunnington to have 20 plus possessions and have a real impact on the game. So they got it wrong. Ben Cunnington's still a superstar. Get your back right, mate, and we can't wait to see you back out there.
It's an interesting one, Crawford, because sometimes it's the players' call, sometimes it's the coach's call. Have you ever been put in that situation where you faced that sort of last-minute fitness test and maybe you didn't think you were quite right to go, but you're told to play?
I had a time when I was at Hawthorn in my early days where I had a really crook ankle and there was just no way that I wanted to play. But the physio said, no, you'll be okay. And the next thing, I was in match committee and they said, you've been selected. And I was telling him, I was virtually in tears saying, no, I don't think I can play. I don't think I should play. And I ended up playing and playing poorly. But, you know, sometimes you just got to get out there and do your very best. But you've got to remember, as soon as you go out over that line, there's no excuses. You've got to contribute the best you possibly can. And you can't go out there feeling sorry for yourself and being a non-contributor. And it happens all the time. Players have got to make really tough calls and you've got to think about the team, not necessarily about yourself. But back then, Hawthorn, we were no good. So we needed every player to put up their hand and get out there. And even if one was on one leg, that didn't matter. We needed someone to get out there and have a crack.
I got told you wanted to play so you get those extra couple of Brownlow votes to get you over the line, but that might be a story for another day, Crawford. I didn't prepare you that I was going to say that anyway.
That is definitely not true. It was more about the match payment because I wanted to go away to Hawaii at the end of the season, or maybe it was Las Vegas, but it was more about the match payment, not necessarily the Brownlow vote, because I didn't get a kick.
Well, I reckon that's just about all we've got time for tonight, but I know you are dying to close the show. You've been part Kane Corns tonight. You've whacked just about everyone. Maybe you can be part Tony Jones too and wrap it up for us. What do you reckon?
Hey, mate, it's been wonderful for you to join us. I've taken over your role, although I don't want it. I'd rather sit over there. Hey, we wish you all the very best up there. I didn't want to tell you, while we were filming, there was about 8 Blues players walking out and heading the other way down the road. So you better get on your bike, take the camera and see what they're up to. Hopefully not hitting the nightclubs.
All right, I'll see you later, Crawford.
No, the other way. They went the other way.